Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. WeatherBrains, episode 971. 971. And this is for the 26th of August, 2024. The pre show. This is the magical time of the program where we do three things: boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and on occasion, we say outrageous things. 971. Football season starts this week. The college football season, it's back. High school football going. NFL preseason going. Fall is coming. That's exciting. I always love this time of the year. Fall is I'd say it's my favorite season. They all have their good points, but just something about a crisp fall day with the changing leaves and the first really good breath of continental air from the north. It's good. Of course, down here at this latitude, we typically don't get that until sometime in October, but that's okay. It is a marvelous time of the year. In fact, our chief photographer here just left off the light kit and the tripods and everything for college football. That's a sign it's back. Bill, I got the tripod, the light kit, all the stuff for the University of Alabama football game Saturday.
Did he make carry it for you?
By my door. So
I'm glad to carry your luggage for you, James. You know, you need an assistant.
You're a strong man.
I'm getting stronger. I've lost 17 pounds and I'm up to 155 on the heart rate on the Peloton. So I'll take you on one of those tire throwing contests or whatever y'all do out there at your gym here, maybe in 2 years.
Alabama plays a weather school, Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers. Those kids are great. I mean, I see them in Nashville. I see them they'll travel down to Starkville. This is for the symposiums. Some travel down to Mobile for CCAPs, and I love those students. And I have been on their campus.
Traveling to Tuscaloosa for football. What you think?
I think so. We need to do a meetup. I spoke.
You should.
I spoke up there and had a marvelous time. Just a great time. It's a great campus and a great program, and
really
it's
is.
just great.
And they have a great mascot too.
Yeah. So the Hilltoppers will be in Tuscaloosa. So if you're a Hilltopper student, send me a message. We'll try and do an impromptu meetup there. It's an evening kickoff, like at 6 o'clock. So, which is better than an 11 o'clock or a 2:30 kickoff in August. For those that don't know, August in Alabama doesn't feel like football. September in Alabama doesn't feel like football. Now we have to get to October before that happens.
November barely does.
And every year I get the same note from this guy. Hey, when I was a kid, it turned cold on Labor Day, and it stayed cold all the way through Memorial Day.
I lived in Minnesota.
I finally just smile and thank you for the memories and thanks for playing.
You ought to see some dew points up in southern Minnesota, though. My goodness, 81.
Yeah, come on. We're sharing the love. Sharing the love of maritime tropical air. Welcome to our world.
How about 86 in St. James, John? 86-degree dew point? Is the corn just going crazy?
I don't.
Maybe they had some rain.
I don't know if I believe that one. That sounds like a.
They may have had
problem
some rain earlier,
sensor.
but no, there's a bunch of 80s though. There's all kind of 80s. There's an 86 at Preston.
It sure looks like they're
89 over 86.
Blowing up.
Whoa, that's some serious dew point there.
I see one warning.
It was
that big old nasty batch is coming right in on Minneapolis, St. Paul right now.
Yeah, funnel cloud there a little earlier. But what was I going to tell you? Oh, our chairman today. Speaking of football brains, before we get away from that, Vanessa's a University of Miami graduate, so I'm sure she's got some stuff to say about the U here. But our chairman is a graduate of Florida State, and he led off the meeting at the CVB today by saying, Well, now our hopes are that Florida State can get in the Birmingham Bowl.
Yeah, there you
And I
go.
was like, you
That's
spoiled it
that's
for
it.
me. I had it on my DVR to watch, so I guess I know who won now,
Um,
which is
yeah.
terrible.
So
Terrible for the
I
Knowles.
was I missed that. I we had a book signing deal, and I just missed that game. And
They were
yet
in
yesterday I had to drive
Dublin,
down
weren't
to
they?
Dublin, Ireland. But
Yeah.
I went down to the Gulf Coast yesterday. I spoke at a big conference this morning at Orange Beach,
Wow.
and had to pray that the highway of doom
Oh, it
was
is the
clear
highway
to
of
come
doom.
back up here, which is I-65.
Surely
Normally,
that
from Orange Beach to the TV station here is 4 hours on the nose, four
on a
hours.
good day.
But when the highway of doom becomes a factor, you don't know.
You
So
didn't have a state
and
trooper
we are
escort or anything?
well. I could have gotten one in Greenville from my
That's
friend who's the
true.
mayor, but other than that, no. But there were no problems. It was very school's back, so
That's good.
and Labor Day weekend is next weekend, not this one. So it
Ooh,
worked
wait
out.
till
It was
Friday.
all good. But
Woo-hoo.
we had a massive crowd at this. It's the governor's health and safety conference at the Perdido Beach Resort in Orange Beach, and
Always
it
a fun
was
place to go.
jam packed. So we had a good time this morning. Um, yeah, I just saw a severe thunderstorm box pop up from Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Hmm.
That's a pretty nasty looking batch of storms. Vanessa, can you hear us okay? Or are we making any sense here?
Yes,
Well,
I
I know we're not making
can.
sense.
No,
You can hear us.
I
Okay.
didn't want to disturb your conversation, James. And
You are our
No, we,
say
conversation tonight. So
it's a pleasure.
you are the conversation.
that's right.
So I'm impressed with the way the magnets are
I love those
neatly
magnets.
organized on that
That's
refrigerator.
it.
I mean,
Yeah.
wow,
If
that's
you
a good
come and
job.
organize my computer desktop, Vanessa, maybe.
This is all the magnets of all the places I visited, lived in. I'm a magnet person.
Yeah, me too. I love
No,
magnets. My
that's
wife hates them. She puts them on the side of the refrigerator. I can't keep them organized. So
I've got some on my drawers here. I love them. I'm a big magnet guy, but people will give you these little things, and it reminds you of places that you've been, and you know
Mhm.
right,
it's I like it.
exactly.
So
They're a cool
it's
way
like
to remember.
my door here is all the little things the schools give you when you walk in. You have to wear a little sticker to let with your driver's license, and you've checked in. And I probably have 2,000
I
on
was
my
gonna
door
say.
here. I just stick them up on the door. So one day when I'm a really old geezer, which I guess I am now, I can look up on this door and see the places I've been. So
Yeah, and
I
one
can
day
relate
when
to
they have to
that.
clean up after you, they're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah, no, this they will
just
have to
replace
nuke
the
and
door.
pave
It'll
this
be
whole
easier."
room. Yeah, this closet, there's no hope that this will always be mine. But I'm telling you that the way it worked, the more junk in an enclosed space like this in this closet, the better the audio sounds for
Yeah,
radio
that's
and all
true.
the stuff you do in here. You want it to look. If you go into a Nashville recording studio, it looks like this. It's got weird shapes in there, and I mean, it doesn't look junky like this, but I would suggest my little closet has a really good audio sound to it. So that's how I
Well,
justify the
if your
junk in here.
radio is any indication, I would agree with you. Yeah, you
Um,
almost had a show title there.
so
You said magnets on your drawers. I was like, okay, I hope he means
no,
his office furniture.
that is a great show title. Uh, just a great show title. All right.
So who does
So
Miami play this week, Vanessa? It's a pretty big game, isn't it? If I remember
Oh
correctly.
man, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'll be honest with you, I'm more of a big Kansas City Chiefs fan right now than
Oh, can't go wrong there.
yeah, we have our big first game next Thursday against the Ravens. It's the AFC Championship rematch. So I know they're out for blood for us after what we did to them.
Oh
And
yeah,
they're
y'all play.
always
Y'all, Miami plays Florida Saturday. That's gonna be
yes,
fun.
UF, yes. I knew it was
Ooh.
either yeah, because Florida State is not until October because that's our homecoming game this
Yeah,
year.
all three of those games were always so big back in the '80s, especially.
Oh yeah, my father went to Miami during the glory days of football.
Back with George Myra and those guys.
Yep, Jimmy
My dad
Johnson.
loved George Myra, and he came and coached the Birmingham Americans in the World League of American Football. Wasn't that what it was called, James? George Myra.
We've had so many, I lose track of them. I do believe you're right.
We've had the same one for 3 years though, so that's good.
It's well, but even that one, I don't. It's not the USFL anymore, didn't it? It's an
It changed to the
XFL,
UFL.
USFL,
Yeah. It changed to the UFL.
UFL, something. Yeah.
Jen, it's kitchen night. You have to show your magnets. Jen.
Hello, my magnets.
Yeah, show your magnets.
Oh man, I just have to get up.
I bet Jen has cool magnets.
I actually have the planets.
The planets. Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
So that's
Tony
pretty
Rice
cool.
would have a fit, wouldn't he?
Yes, he would.
That would make Mr. Rice very happy.
Yeah. Hi, Vanessa. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Jen. I think I saw you briefly. Were you in Myrtle Beach at the AMS broadcast conference? I'm trying to remember. I'm good at remembering faces.
No,
Yeah.
we're gonna start making her go to conferences.
No, I
very
need to go to-
soon.
Yes, I need to go more. I've been to the AMS broadcast like a million years ago. This is way back in my Weather Channel days, but I've not been to any other ones, and I've not done the NWA before. So I got to get myself together here.
Shame, shame,
I know.
shame, shame.
I know.
So let's
Starting
welcome our
next year.
television viewers. We are at the top of the hour. Those watching on local broadcast television, you know what this is. It's the Monday Night Weather Party, WeatherBrains, the show for weather geeks, dweebs, nerds, dorks, and weenies. Every Monday night at 7 Central, we're now on television. And we can start the shoe here. Let's get this thing going. We'll record track number 1 and track number 2. And here we go in. And hang on, here comes Kim. Let me be sure I got the audio routed.
Kim.
Let's see if you hear the foghorn.
Loud and clear.
Y'all hear that? Okay, good. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to WeatherBrains. They're kind of a big deal.
Ooh, kind of a big deal. According to Bill Curtis, we'll take that. WeatherBrains episode 971. 971. As we often say here, you know, we might not be the greatest weather podcast in the universe, but by golly, we are the oldest weather podcast in the universe. Coming up in January, we will be celebrating 19 years on the air. And also next year, we'll be celebrating show 1000. So
Every week I get palpitations when I see that show counter clicking one show closer.
Not 971. So we will come up with some plan at some point, and hopefully we can all be together. Yeah, 998. We'll start thinking about it. Yeah, no, it's that's kind of cool. I heard that Troy Kimmel laugh. I heard that.
I did too.
I'm sorry, but
yeah, no. So what?
Hey,
What's
Vanessa,
We got him on the
what's going
email
down
today,
there?
so that's the most important thing.
No,
We
no.
got
Hey,
the Span
hey,
and the Kimmel
I
on
got
the email
a
today.
WeatherBrains email for the first time in a long time.
Well, I
back in
could
the
not
booth. I
figure
feel
out why you
privileged.
weren't getting it, and I finally realized
Hooray.
Trey had put just JP in, had not put you in.
Yeah.
So JP was
Oh, okay.
getting them, but he didn't understand the differentiation.
thank
So-
you, Trey.
And Troy,
Yeah, thank you.
he didn't take down the weather. I was describing emails to him while I was driving down I-20, which probably wasn't the smartest thing in the world.
I
Well, he
think
left out
I
the
talked
weather
to you
part.
last week when I was driving up US 45. So
So somebody over at TroyKimmel.com's been getting all kind of emails from WeatherBrains.
here.
Troy, what you got coming in there from the east? Some kind of upper low? What is this thing swirling through there? I see.
Oh, and yeah, this system came off the Gulf. It's an upper level system. New Braunfels National Weather Service, Austin, San Antonio talked about it a little bit this afternoon. A little bit of an upper level low, kind of tropical in nature, upper level low though. And it's kind of been sitting out there waiting for the high to budge out of here. And it finally did. It shifted to the north a little bit and made room for it. And this thing is pretty. I mean, when you look at it on radar and the counterclockwise motion associated with this little upper level low has been quite impressive. And I'll take it. And the interesting thing is, that we had a little rain today. I think, what have I got? Yeah, right at a ½ inch of rain here. It's first rain here in the last month, really. And so we've gotten some of that. That's nice. Expect a cold front. I was going to ask Kim, but they're forecasting this front to come through Oklahoma into North Texas by the end of the week. And that even makes things more unstable around here anyway. And I'm willing to settle for that. I have to give a quick plug to Northeast Mississippi. I had the chance, as Bill and I were talking a little bit, and had the chance to be up in, I was in Starkville for a little bit, flew in there, and went up to Tupelo, and went up to Corinth to the, well, I'm not going to say the class number, but I'm a member of a certain class of a year. And no one thought I had any class. But anyway, but really had a good time, and thank all my friends in Corinth and Alcorn County, Northeast Mississippi. Had a good time in the brief time that I was up there. So, but not a, it was beautiful up there and early morning, James, and y'all had talked about it last week. We were in the upper 50s some of the mornings, and there was just no humidity. I walked off the airplane down here, and it slapped me upside the head yesterday when I walked back into Austin. And but had a good time up there. Good time.
I ran on Saturday morning, and it was 64 degrees when I went running.
Troy, we did our reunion like yours this year, and it was great. I didn't, especially the one down in Greenville, where I'm really from, Greenville, Alabama. Yeah, a little bitty small town in South Alabama. It was so good. I mean, it was just great.
Well, these are people, James, and James is not that old, but these are people I hadn't seen in 54 years, and I'm sort of a hanger-on in that class because our family left there before we graduated. But they've always invited me back, and I go and hang out with them. And one thing we talk about a whole lot are the teachers that you had along the way that meant so much. I'm not going to get through this. I got the chance to meet with my 8th and 9th grade English teacher who meant so much and everything that I decided to do. And Peggy Bronner there in Corinth, and hadn't seen her in 54 years. And we had coffee and tea at the Starbucks on Saturday afternoon after the reunion was over. And I just had the best time in the world. That had to be a blessing,
Troy.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something else too. I got to give a plug to Jen, because I spent time in the Corinth library. I felt like Jen Naramore.
Did you go to the Historical Society?
No, you go over there and you look at the old newspapers, and that's what I went and did Saturday. And I was thinking about you, Jen, every moment I was doing it.
I love it. My favorite place to be.
Yep.
I wish a couple of libraries.
Let's work our way.
Find a library that's going to close and give me their microfilm and machines. I would be in heaven.
Oh yeah.
Let's work our way north up to the I-40 corridor. See Rick Smith on the line here. Rick,
that refer to him as movie star Rick Smith, please.
Yeah, please.
Well, his new name is Hollywood. I mean, Hollywood. Let's just call him Hollywood.
That's gonna stick.
So Hollywood, how's the weather in Oklahoma City?
According to one of a listener email we got, they sent the Kilroy was here. I think that's I'm not. What's the guy's name on Home Improvement? Wilson. That's another where you just see the top.
Right.
I'll answer to any of those. I answered any of those. So now the weather here was hot one more day, but I think that's the last of the really hot days. I don't think we had heat advisories or excessive heat warnings over much of our area today. And by the end of the week, we're going to have highs in the 80s, high 86 on Friday with a 50% chance of storms just in time for OU football. So looking forward to it all.
Friday night game, Rick, is that right?
Yep, Friday night.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does Kevin Closel still do all that, or has he gotten out of that business?
He's long gone. No, he's
I think they're closer to me, Rick.
But no, they actually just hired his replacement, and
really?
They got a really good person, and looking forward to working with him. But yeah,
Rick, Kevin is down here in my parts now, down in Central Texas. So I've had the chance to talk to him a couple of times.
Oh, he's been living it up. He's been doing Phantom Regiment Drum Corps, and I don't know. I think he's working more now than he was before he quote retired. So
would you expect any differently? I guess.
Yeah. Doing stuff he really wants to do.
Yep.
So Kim, will you be attending the Oklahoma football game Friday night? OU game.
No, I wish that I would be doing anything other than what I'm doing, but I'm going to be having my tonsils out. I might have mentioned that was coming on this show a couple weeks ago.
Whoa.
I didn't. It got delayed, but yeah, it's going to be a less than fun Friday. So I'm hoping the football game is at least less painful than a tonsillectomy. We'll see.
Grubhub some ice cream over to the Coco McLean household.
There's a show title.
Any else?
No, we need to deconstruct this whole story right here. I mean, this could be a whole show right here. So
Yeah.
you're getting your tonsils out on Friday.
Yeah, and apparently it's amazing.
Don't most do that a little younger in their lives, or is this something
James.
new?
It's like
James,
having
I
chicken
mean,
pox when I had it when I was like
I'm such
30
a
years
young
old.
lady. I mean, come on.
That's right.
I'm just a little spring chicken. Yeah. I was telling, we had this done with my 5 and 3-year-old a year ago, and I was telling them as I was picking up the medicine from the pharmacy today that I'll be using to try to deal with the effects of this. I was just like, oh yeah, this is the same kind of stuff that you guys had. Remember when you had your tonsils out? And they just kind of looked at me. Why do you have them? Oh, kids.
Yeah, what's the matter with you? Yeah, wow.
Worst day of my life when I was 6 years old.
So James ate a lot. Have you had your tonsils taken out?
Well,
No.
shine a light up
I
in
had
there.
asked
Let's
that.
look and
Yeah.
see.
I have not. I still have most of my original parts.
Wow.
Well,
Appendix
there's a
2.
show
Well,
title.
you two could get a
Yeah, discount.
You get a 2-for-1 special.
Let's do it. Well, that'd be like what, 4 for 1 or something like that. I don't know. We have 2 tonsils. Is that right? I didn't go to medical school. I don't know these things.
Wow.
Oh,
Well, this is
bonus.
going down the tubes fast.
Quick.
Bill Murray, let's bring in our guests before they run.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce my guest, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kim to introduce another friend of the show. And they're going to talk for a minute, and then we're going to spend some time with our main guest tonight. But our tonight's guest weather brain is a suggestion of friend of the podcast, Ryan Stinnett. This weather brain has a rich background in meteorology. Had a childhood experience with Hurricane Andrew in Miami. She earned her degree from the University of Miami, combining meteorology and broadcast journalism, has worked across various states, gaining experience in all kinds of weather. Currently, she's in Missouri at KQ2 News, has worked in several other markets, including a stint at the Weather Channel, actively involved in the American Meteorological Society and the National Weather Association, including several certifications and playing several key roles on various committees. Vanessa Alonso, I don't know how we've missed having you on the show all these years, but I'm glad we finally got that done. Welcome to WeatherBrains.
I just have to say it's an honor to be here. This has been on my bucket list for a very long time, to be surrounded by amazing people like all of you and the GOAT himself, James Spann, and Troy and James. There's just no words to describe it. So I'm very blessed for this opportunity. So thank you guys for all having me here tonight.
Well, we feel the same way too. And I know James and Troy promised we'd be nice, and we always are. So that was a given. But I'll turn it over to Kim so she can introduce our other friend tonight.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the National Weather Association, I'm excited to introduce Sandy LaCourte, who works at NOAA. She works in the NOAA Weather Program Office. But today she's here to preview a little bit of some exciting sessions coming up, especially for our early career folks and students who are listeners at the National Weather Association annual meeting. And Sandy, just welcome to the show. And I'm so excited to hear a little bit about what you are going to have in your program.
Thank you so much, Kim. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yep. Loud and
Amazing.
clear.
Loud
Good to see
and clear.
everyone. Perfect. Well, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's staying cool. Summer has returned to the southeast. But I'm happy to be here. As Kim said, my name is Sandy LaCourte, and I am here on behalf of the National Weather Association Student and Early Career Planning Committee. So I'll just say NWA for short, because that is a tongue twister. But as many people know, the NWA annual meeting is coming up in just a few weeks. It'll be here before we know it. And if you're able to attend in person, it will be in Irving, Texas. And I'm excited to share that on that Sunday, September 15th from 9:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Central Time, will be the Student and Early Career session. The committee, we've been brainstorming and planning for the past several months, and we're really excited and hoping that some students and early career folks are able to join us, whether in person or virtually. What we have planned for the day, a lot of interactive activities. One, a workshop on documents that you need to land that job. So enhancing or building your resume and your personal statement. One talk we're going to have is forecasting career changes and how to navigate them with confidence and success. Also, we'll have a breakout table session really looking at soft skills that are really important to embrace in the workspace. What I've heard is the fan favorite, a speed mentoring session. So that's going to be really great. And a post session reel swap. So if we have any future broadcasters, broadcast meteorologists attending, and you have a reel that you want to get some feedback on, definitely bring it. We'll have some folks there to provide that kind of guidance. But another thing that I really love about conferences and meetings is the opportunity to network. And that's what we're hoping to bring to the table, not only at the student session, but throughout the week. One thing we did make sure to do was our conference, our session overlaps with the broadcasters workshop on the breaks. So when we have a break, they'll be having a break, and just a great opportunity for everyone to mingle and talk. And if any students are able to stay with us through the rest of the week for the actual annual meeting, there's an opportunity to do student briefings, weather briefings in the morning. So all this information you can check out on the NWA website. If you go to the top, there's little meetings, invites, choice on the menu, and everything there for the upcoming meeting is there. Registration is open, and we hope to see you there.
Sandy, I've got a question for you. Thank you for being with us on WeatherBrains. But I got to think, and by the way, welcome to Texas as the NWA comes down to the state of Texas. But I got to think this is so important what you're doing. And it would be important anyway in any other age and time, Sandy. Mm-hmm. But coming out of COVID, and these students have had such they've been, I don't know how I can say they've been treated unfairly, but they have been. Times just treated them unfairly. And I see that at the University of Texas with students that go through. But I assume that this meeting has double importance, and especially, like you say, for networking. If nothing else, a lot of them didn't have a chance, Sandy, to intern and this sort of thing. So I'd say hooray for the NWA, and I'm glad to know that we're going to be doing that in Texas, and how important what you say is for these kids and for the early career people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I couldn't imagine what the students went through, not being able to be in person, not being able to network. And I think we can all agree, there's so many opportunities in the weather enterprise, research, forecasting, broadcasting, different areas of expertise. But at the end of the day, it's a really small community. We're all working together and we all have the same passion. And I'm really hoping that we'll continue to get more and more students and early career folks to be able to attend. And again, I'm hoping some will be able to attend virtually. I know it may not feel, the same, but we're going to try to do everything we can, and hopefully for future conferences coming up. Yeah, I'm just excited. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, with that, Bill, I'm going to pass the baton back to you. Thank you so much, Sandy, for coming on the show and giving us that preview. I really do hope that all of the people who are listening to our show, I know we have a lot of young people who listen to our show, feel moved to come and have those experiences, do that career development. It'll be a great opportunity. Thank you again, Sandy.
Yeah, thanks, Kim.
And I want to remind all the members of the NWA too, it is a huge day to get to spend time with the students. And I think that's really brilliant, Sandy, that y'all overlap the breaks and the the mentoring opportunity. All these things are just incredible. And so please avail yourself of this opportunity, members. I'm not going to get to be there this year, and I'm really disappointed that I'm not. But please use that opportunity to, especially a lot of us that are shy, break out of that, students and professionals, break out of that shy mode, and you're going to have some amazing things happen. Sandy, you were on show 243 in 2010. That was so long ago. And it's so amazing to see you now and see what you're doing. And we're really proud to say we knew you back then. And I was thrilled when Kim said you were going to join us tonight.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, it's been quite a trip down memory lane being here tonight. And I remember being in my room on the phone, so nervous. And but it was
Yeah, that was probably before we were doing video, I bet.
Yeah, it was for the inaugural Rocket City Weather Fest in Huntsville,
Right.
Alabama, and
Wow.
it's been an incredible journey. So we'll miss you at the meeting this year, Bill, but hopefully
Well,
soon.
thank you. You've always been an awesome friend, and I was so thrilled to see you tonight. So,
You too.
well, stick around if you can. You're welcome to. I know you may be busy, but we hoped you would, and if you can, do.
Will
Awesome.
do. Thanks.
Well, Vanessa, it's time to spend time with you. And James A said he didn't promise to be nice, but he's never been anything but. So I think that's his mean face right there. But anyway, you mentioned that Hurricane Andrew influenced you at an early age, 1992. That was a pivotal moment in your life. Share how that experience shaped your career in following meteorology.
So it's kind of ironic that we're having this WeatherBrains episode 2 days after the 32-year anniversary of Andrew. I was 7 years old. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, my entire life. Up to that point in 1992, you only had summer in South Florida. I think the last hurricane was Betsy in 65. That was the last time South Florida had impact from any sort of hurricane. My father loved watching Brian Norcross. And my mom, who's Hispanic, she's Cuban, she loved watching John Morales. And those two individuals, in my opinion, are the men who saved South Florida in 1992. For Brian Norcross, for the English speakers, for John Morales, the Spanish speakers. My father remembered very vividly that Friday, August 21st, when Brian went on air at 5 o'clock saying, hey, Tropical Storm Andrew, I talked about it. It was probably going to dissipate. There's a chance that it could impact us early next week. You may want to watch. And I remember very vividly my dad saying, like, we haven't had a hurricane in years. My father was born and raised in South Florida his entire life. My mom came here to the United States from Cuba at age 16. She remembered Flora in 63, and she remembered how traumatizing that experience was for her. So my mom started getting nervous. My father was like, I never went through anything like this before. I mean, so I just remembered seeing my parents that Friday night starting scrambling. Mm-hmm. And then on Saturday morning, when news came out from the Hurricane Center that Andrew was now a hurricane and was heading like a bullseye, like right towards South Florida, straight. It was like bow and arrow. I just remembered like that was like my first time seeing the forecast maps and seeing, the tracking and all that stuff. And I just remembered seeing Brian Norcross and John Morales from that point on nonstop that entire weekend. I just remember going with my mom to the grocery store, seeing people just grabbing stuff, just grabbing everything they could. And then, because really back then we only had 36 hours. We didn't get put under a hurricane watch till 5 o'clock that evening. So back then we only had like 36 hours at most to get ready for this. And then 8 a.m. the next morning was when the warning was issued. And by then, everyone was just scrambling. Everyone was just saying, oh, it's so nice. It's so beautiful here in Miami. I don't see a hurricane coming. What are these people talking about? And then I remembered that sunset was just so gorgeous that Sunday evening. But I just remember that eerie calm at 7 years old. There's things that in my childhood that I still remember vividly. And I still remember that evening, that sunset. It was just so calm, but it was a weird calm. It's like you knew something was coming and you knew it wasn't going to be good. I lived in the Kendall Coral Gables area. at that time in 1992. And as everyone has come to learn, that wasn't too far from the National Hurricane Center where it was at the time. It was right across the street from my alma mater, the University of Miami, at the time on US 1 in Coral Gables in Tower 1. And I lived right off of Kendall Drive and 137. So I lived literally in the danger zone. I remembered going to sleep. I was 7 years old at the time. I mean, I was watching cartoons, movies. My parents were just trying to keep my younger sister and I, my sister was 4 at the time. They were just trying to keep my sister and I very calm. And my parents were in the other room watching Brian. And so the last thing I remembered was just watching cartoons. And then the next thing I remembered, it was around 4:30, 5 o'clock that morning. I just remember waking up to a huge bang right outside my house. And I just remembered the roar. The sound of that wind is a noise that I can never get out of my head. I can still never get it out of my head. It was a roaring sound that, like, it just wouldn't stop. It just wouldn't stop. And my dad at the point had Brian Norcross on the radio, and he talked about, this is the time to get your mattress and hunker down. So we went into our little enclosed bathroom with the mattress. And right when that happened, we heard one of the windows blow out. We got the far northern eye wall of Andrew as it went through South Dade County. So my parents remembered vividly, once you went south of Kendall Drive, and my parents, my mom was already living in South Florida for 30 years at this point. My father, who knew Florida City, Homestead, all that area for his entire life. Once you went south of Kendall Drive, you couldn't recognize anything the next morning. Anything. It was literally like a bomb went off. And it was like, my dad remembered going down US 1, and it's like the further south you went, it just got worse and it just got worse. And me being a young kid, seeing homes that, it's like, how did people survive this? And then the days came later, the desperation of people trying to, in Homestead and Florida City, trying to have shelter and everything. It just became anarchy down there. And as a kid, I was like trying to figure out, how did this happen? I didn't understand that. I grew up with sunshine and maybe a couple of thunderstorms here and there, but I never knew what a hurricane was at that point. I didn't know why suddenly one day, people had their homes, and then the next morning, everything was gone. So I remember 2 weeks later, when Miami-Dade County Public Schools started school again, we had a 2-week delay because we were supposed to start on that Monday, August 24th, 1992. I remembered going to the library that same day and just grabbing everything I possibly could on weather, whether it was hurricanes, tornadoes. So it was just this, just being, exposed to all this devastation. It just started off, getting the wheels in my brain going of like, what is weather? What does weather do? And the older I got, the more I realized, like, hey, I really like weather. And I was always good at math. I was always excelling in science. And, my plan was to go into a STEM field and be a doctor like my father, or go into accounting like my mother, and work at a bank or be a CPA someday. So I always had an interest in either doing something science or weather or math related. And then I learned in 4th grade, like, hey, there is a career. It's called meteorology. And so I guess like my passion for weather just started at such an early age, because of my experience through Andrew, and then seeing how South Florida had to recover. And I have had the honor of meeting Brian Norcross so many times. And every time I see him at a conference, he's like, my little Hurricane Andrew survivor. So I always make a an effort every August 24th to read his book, My Hurricane Andrew Story. It talks about his entire experience covering Andrew. For me, I feel like it's my job to remind people like, hey, you know, everyone had that one weather event that just changed their lives forever. And for me, it was the morning of August 24th, 1992. And for the 30-year anniversary 2 years ago, I did a series of TikToks about my experience with Andrew, what Andrew did, the meteorology, the path. And I actually ended up going viral on TikTok because of my Hurricane Andrew series. I think it attracted about over 1 million viewers. So Andrew's a part of me. It's something that's just not, it's never going to separate from me. It's an experience that I hope and pray no one has to go through. Unfortunately, because of events like Katrina, Harvey, the hurricane seasons that we went through in Florida in 2004, 2005, Irma in 2017. I remember people who had PTSD 25 years after Andrew when Irma was going through Florida. That was traumatizing for all of us. And, you know, and climate change has changed hurricane seasons. We're getting more active and more powerful hurricanes. Beryl, I mean, the rapid intensification it had, you know, over the Caribbean back in July. So, I mean, it's, you know, Hurricane Andrew back then was known as the big one, but unfortunately we have had worse big ones since then. And I just hope and pray no one has to go through what I went through in 92.
Yeah, was your home habitable after the hurricane, Vanessa?
It was habitable. It was just that one window that just blew off. It was from
You were lucky.
I was very lucky. And when we sold my childhood home in 2019, it was very painful. It was sad because we said to ourselves, this house survived Andrew. If this house survived a Category 5 hurricane, this can survive any hurricane. So it was bittersweet when my parents had to sell the house.
Well, certainly Brian and John have been on the show several times, and they're both incredible communicators, and we admire what they do. So it had to be very comforting to have them by all the residents in South Florida's side that night, for sure. So you came along first student at the University of Miami to get a Bachelor's of Science in Communication in both meteorology and broadcast journalism. So talk about being that trailblazer. That's kind of cool.
So when I was applying for college back in 2003, I was in the top of my class at Braddock Senior High School. I knew I always wanted to be a broadcast meteorologist. And, you know, I had friends that wanted to move away. They wanted to get out of the state of Florida, get out of Miami. But I knew in my situation, knowing that my career was going to require me to be moving away from home, I decided I want to try to spend as much time as I can with my family. So I made the decision to stay in the state of Florida. Unfortunately, at that time, there wasn't that many opportunities given in meteorology in the state of Florida. At the time that I was aware of, it was Florida State in Tallahassee and the University of Miami. And my dad, being a UM alum, he was like, you're not going to Florida State. You're not going to Florida State. You are not going to Florida State. You are not going to become a Seminole. And then during football season, no, that's not happening. So, but we knew that this is what I wanted to do. So University of Miami was my first choice. And then in the case, because back then, just getting into the University of Miami alone was very competitive. If I didn't get into the University of Miami, okay, we'll swallow the pill and I'll go to Florida State. When I got that acceptance letter, I got early action to kind of like save my spot if I did get accepted. So when I got that, I got accepted both to Florida State and Miami, but obviously my heart was to bleed orange and green and go to the U. So that was my goal. So when I got there in the fall of 2003 at the School of Communication at the University of Miami, you were allowed to have a second major at the time at the College of Arts and Sciences. So when I wanted to declare meteorology as my second major, a lot of I remember my advisor, she kind of like had this, like, she was taken back by it. And I was like, this is a communication. I mean, Brock, I mean, you guys have both majors at the university. I mean, I would think someone would go have declared it before. And she was like, Vanessa, we have never had anyone declare a second major in meteorology. And I'm like, how so? And so I started doing my research, and I actually came up, you know, being a freshman and being a weather geek and being, you know, I was a nerd. I came out with my own plan, my college plan, and I went through the whole curriculum of both broadcast and meteorology. And it was going to be a 5-year plan with all the physics classes, all the math classes, communications classes, internships. I had to, I already had half of my Spanish minor done. So I was going to go ahead and go for the Spanish minor. And then they were like, well, if you do meteorology, you might as well going to get the math minor because of all the math classes you're going to take. And they're like, you do realize this is going to be a 5-year plan. You're not going to be able to do this in 4 years like every other regular college student. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. At this point, this was my passion. Weather has been my passion since I was 7 years old. And I said, I don't care if it takes me 4 years. I don't care if it takes me 4.5 years. I don't care if it takes me 5 years. I came here to be a broadcast meteorologist, and I'm going to leave here with my degree to become a broadcast meteorologist. So when they saw the enthusiasm and the drive that I have, they were like, okay, she's willing to take all these classes. Maybe we should consider maybe starting some sort of meteorology broadcast program. And, you know, at the time, you know, Mississippi State obviously it still is the biggest broadcast meteorology program in the country, in my opinion. So the director of the meteorology program in Miami and the director of broadcast journalism in Miami, the three of us, we looked through the Mississippi State broadcast program, and we were like, wow, like these are all the classes these students have to take, but yet they can do it in 4 years. So they were like, you do realize you're going to probably be our little guinea pig, and you're going to tell us which classes worked and which classes don't work. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'll just flat out tell you guys what worked and what didn't work. So I had to tell them, like, hey, physics 1 worked, physics 2 worked, physics 3, it doesn't make sense for a meteorology major to take it. So every single class I was required to go through, I had to give my yay or nay, like, hey, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. So it was a tedious process to get this done. And then we had talks of, you know, bring in an actual broadcast meteorologist from one of the Miami stations and actually start teaching a broadcast meteorology class at during my junior year. So I was able to help, you know, because they asked me questions. Okay, if we're going to bring in a broadcast meteorology course to the University of Miami, we're going to need you to tell us, like, what systems work, what systems do you suggest, like, should we have a green screen? Should we just have a TV monitor and just pop out? So I had to, like, give them the whole blueprint of what I think was going to work for not only me or for my students and the students that were going to come behind me. And, you know, my opinion was at the time to at least have WSI, Weather Central at the time, along with just a regular green clock, a green screen that they could just lower and higher. And so I got to help create the studio for the broadcast meteorology students. And so every time it was just a tedious process. And I was like, it got to the point when I got to junior year, I was like, man, this is exhausting. Like, I don't know if I could continue doing this. But then I said to myself, no, you started this, you got to finish it. And when I was told, like, in the fall of 2007, once I got through once I was starting my 5th senior year, and they were like, wow, like, we're surprised you're even still here. We would have thought after thermo, after dynamics, and you would have probably, or differential equations, calculus, physics of calculus, you would have just thrown the book and just given up. I mean, I will tell you that Holton thermodynamics book, I still get nightmares from that book all the time. There are nights I still wish I still have the book now because I want to hug it and say, thank you so much for getting me through those days. Because at the time as a college student, I thought thermodynamics was one of the most challenging things you could ever do. But this business taught me more challenges down the road as an adult. But I mean, May 9, 2008, I will never forget my day I graduated. I was recognized by the School of Communications being the first broadcast meteorology major. And when I walked down that stage and I shook Donna Shalala's hand and she told me, congratulations, I've heard so much about you. I mean, this is amazing what you've been doing. And at the time, there was already 5 students in the sophomore junior class that was starting to go through the program. And to my knowledge, in the last 15 years, I believe 30 to 40 students have gone through that program. And, you know, a lot of kids have, they've told me, you know, there were kids that started, they just couldn't finish it because they couldn't handle the math, they couldn't handle the physics. But, you know, some of them were able to at least get the meteorology minor, or, you know, was able to get that meteorology experience to be like, hey, you know, I do like meteorology. I just don't want to go through all the crazy math and science, but I can do the Mississippi State program and get the certification through that. So to my knowledge, to this very day, we've had alumni go to markets in South Carolina, go to markets in, I believe, in Texas, California, Missouri, Mississippi, Georgia. So, I mean, it makes me feel good that, you know, 15 years later, that meteorology program is still holding on strong. And, you know, I can, you know, I went back, I always go home, you know, Miami's my home and I live right across the street now. My parents live across the street now from campus. So I always make a conscious effort to go home and see the campus when I'm there. And that obviously that program has advanced so much in technology since the early 2000s. So these kids are getting spoiled with what they're getting now compared to what I had. But the fact that I was able to start something like that, it makes me feel good. And it shows me that, you know, once you start something, you got to finish it. You just can't stop halfway and just give up.
Now, talk for a minute about how important internships were for you, Vanessa. I know Sandy's going to want to jump in here, and a lot of our folks are tied to, you know, academic pursuits, and we always preach that, but you lived it. So talk about, you know, why that's important and how to position yourself so that you get those internships.
So this brings me to how the American Meteorological Society has impacted me throughout my life. I was able to get a minority scholarship from the American Meteorological Society to study at the University of Miami. And through getting the scholarship through the American Meteorological Society, I was first exposed to the student opportunities the AMS offered, you know, such as being a student volunteer at the annual conference. So I was like, okay, you know what? I need to get myself out there at these conferences. And, you know, yeah, will I have to work the conference as a student volunteer? Yeah, sure. But I mean, who knows what doors it's going to open up for me. So I had the opportunity to be a student volunteer for the AMS annual conferences in San Diego in 2005, Atlanta in 2006, and then the San Antonio conference in 2007, which was the same year the broadcast conference was also with the annual conference. And that was the year I had my first ice storm experience because San Antonio had an ice storm during the conference. Those were great memories for us Miami students because we never saw ice and we were like, oh my God, we're at a meteorology conference and we're seeing an ice storm. This is awesome. So it was through that those conferences I was able to meet all these amazing broadcast meteorologists from across the nation. And I was exposed to not only broadcast meteorology, but I was exposed to research and NOAA and, you know, the whole shebang. And I was just like, wow, there's just so much to do out there. And it was in Atlanta in 2006 when I met Chad Myers. Since the conference was based in Atlanta in 2006, I got a chance to meet with Chad Myers. I spent so much time with him at the conference, networking with him and so many others. Chad just came up to me before the conference ended and he was like, hey, I know you're from Miami. You're only like an hour away from us through flight. Why don't you just come and spend a week with us at the CNN studios? And I was like, really? Like, I was 20 years old at the time. So for me, I just felt like oh my God, I get to go to a national network. Like this, it was just like, I thought it was just the coolest thing ever. So Chad invited me to spend a couple weeks with him, Jackie Jarris, Reynolds Wolf, who they were at CNN at the time before they went to the Weather Channel. I got to spend a couple weeks with them, just learning how the business worked on a national level, getting to see how they did forecasts for different parts of the country. And I was just taken back by all the knowledge they had, you know, with all types of weather and geography. I was just blown away by that. Like, wow, how did they get all this knowledge and absorbed it to like remember all these city names and all these mountains? And mind you, at the time I was from South Florida. I mean, I was just starting to get out of my little cocoon, my little bubble. So it was just fun to just start learning about the different geography and the different parts of the country. And then traveling through the AMS, it exposed me to other parts of the country. So when I came back from my internship at CNN, that was when, you know, I started reaching out. You know, Brian knew me from way before. John knew me from way before. The Fox station in Miami, the ABC station in Miami, everyone knew who I was just because of how passionate they saw my drive as a meteorologist. And I just took every single internship opportunity every Miami station could offer me, whether it was, you know, hey, can you produce graphics for us? Can you at least get a forecast together? Or hey, can you take some messages from our weather watchers? Or, you know, things like that. So I just absorbed every single piece of the puzzle that I could get just to put it all together and just say, build my resume as I was building my, you know, my curriculum and my degree. So that's why I always tell, you know, I had the opportunity to be an instructor for the broadcast meteorology program at the University of Florida for a while. And I told all my kids during the time I was teaching, like, you need to start now, get yourself out there. Yeah, will you have to step out of your comfort zone and talk to people you've never seen before, or, you know, if it's going to feel awkward, like, yeah, but it's those, you never know if that connection you make at a conference or at an internship, you don't know if that's going to open up the door to you for a bigger opportunity down the road. You just never know.
So, Sandy, I wanted you to be able to chime in. Span, real quick, what's astrophobia? Do you know what that is, James?
Astrophobia? So it's a
Astrophobia.
Astra. So it's a
Yes.
fear of something.
Yes, very good.
I don't know.
Sandy had this fear. It's the fear of lightning and thunder. And I want you
Wow.
to talk about that for a minute, Sandy. But you graduated from UNC Asheville in 2008, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so talk about your double major and, you know, some of the shared experiences like Vanessa had and how that shapes your advice today to students. I know you're living it here coming up NWA next month, but, you know, she just said right there at the end of, you know, her statement, you know, you got to be preparing. So what does that mean to you?
Well, first off, Vanessa, I feel like I can relate to your story on so many levels. So it's been exciting to hear your journey through your career. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I was talking about Hurricane Hugo. I remember it when I was 3, but we actually had moved just north of Charlotte, and there was a bad tornado. And I'd never been in a creepy old basement before, and that's when it kicked in. And throughout the rest of elementary school up until my junior year of high school, I was just terrified of storms. I was the person who was going to go into music or, over here really looking at psychology and different things. And it finally just clicked that I was ready. I was really into weather, and I became obsessed. And so I went to UNC Asheville. My first conference was the AMS conference. I believe it was 2008 in New Orleans. We'll have to fact check that. I can't remember. But even then, just like Vanessa was saying, it's just, you just start networking. I mean, I was the person just walking up to anyone I could. I remember the previous Weather Service director, Louis Uccellini, he was working the checkout or the check-in table. And I just started talking to people, and I'd look at their name tags, but I was also very extroverted, if you couldn't tell. But I also now make it more of a conscious effort at conferences now, being further into my career, I try to approach the students, just start talking to them, learning about what they're interested in. And, some of them are shy, and it's like, it's okay to be shy. It's okay to not know what direction you want to go. I went on to grad school at UA Huntsville, knew I wanted to go into the National Weather Service, had an incredible career there for nearly 12 years. But not everyone knows, and it's okay. And again, what I love about Vanessa's story, she was in there networking, even if it was just creating graphics, it's really the opportunity to just do what you can and just show how passionate you are. And, we've all been there. We've all been through the classes. Yes, I struggled with physics and Calc 3. I was an Algebra 2 person. And, but, just let that passion shine through.
We need one of our loyal viewers to create an emoticon for James's incredible puns that are over here in the chat every show. They are beyond genius, and I love them every week. But James, you had something interesting to say too, and then Kim.
There is an emoji built in for my puns. I'll leave that up to your imagination. Hearing Sandy's story, I started wondering, is meteorology the STEM field with the most people that entered it because they were scared of part of weather? Because I'm one. Tornadoes.
Yep. Yeah. Same, and the exact same age. I keyed in on Vanessa's story and the age that she was. It's like this 6 to 8 seems to be about the consensus age. And you were right there. That was how old I was when the Plainfield tornado happened. Sandy shared that she was in a hurricane in North Carolina in
89.
Exact age, but when you were 3, and that's actually the youngest I think I've heard of. So yes, it is such a feature. The way that I put it is that we are a field of walking trauma cases. I mean, we all got into this as a winning
show title. Yep, write that one down, James.
Show title.
Like, it's a whole field of people who got through and dealt with trauma by studying physics. Like, what? But that's what we all did. But it is true. It is so true. And when I was working with Michael Lewis, when he was writing The Fifth Risk, he came out to Oklahoma, and I had a whole bunch of time with him, such that I became a character in his book. I guess he just discovered I was a character. So he put me in his book. But my quote
wait a minute. I need to know about this. A character in what book?
Oh, do you know Michael Lewis? The guy who did, oh my gosh, so many things. The Big Short and
yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, New York Times bestselling author of like a bunch of things. He wrote a book called The Fifth Risk, and it was about some of the things that go on in the federal government that are like behind the scenes, people don't know about, but actually keep the world running. He was really interested in weather. And he went and did a bunch of interviews around when it was early in Trump's presidency, when we might have had an administrator that was an AccuWeather character. Speaking of characters, and I think part of the reason I featured in the book is because I knew Dr. Sullivan, who'd been the previous administrator, and I'd also interacted with with Barry Myers, and they had just different views on the work that I was trying to do. And I was able to walk him through some of that. But he noticed in his interviews with different people in our field, he was just like, do all of you have an origin story? I was like, yeah, we're kind of like superheroes. Like we all have an origin story. Like you see a Marvel movie, it's just like, yeah, man, this is our everyday. Like everyone walks around with an origin story, right? It's like some
Yeah,
major.
you were a weather hero too. You were a weather friend, Kim. So weren't you? Weren't you one of the weather friends at OU? Or did
Weather
I
friend.
imagine that? The
Oh, well,
superheroes that
oh yeah, I was the original Ice Queen.
I
Yeah,
didn't mean to interrupt you and take you down that
no.
rabbit hole, Kim. So
Speaking of
please finish
superheroes,
your
yeah,
point.
we do have superheroes featured at our weather festival at the National Weather Center. But yeah, if you haven't read The Fifth Risk, it's a pretty good read. Michael Lewis is a really hilarious guy, and he absolutely made this observation, James, to bring it back to you. He absolutely made this observation that you made, and that it stood out that clearly to somebody like that who interviews so widely across so many fields. I think it's fair to say that we're unique.
And Rick Smith, you mentioned the official name for what many of us have had, fear of tornadoes and hurricanes. What is that?
Yeah, please don't ask me to pronounce it though.
I was leaving that part to you.
Lalapsophobia. Lalapsophobia is a fear of tornadoes and hurricanes. So
I remember a Charlie Brown, a Peanuts cartoon. I thought it was one of the funniest ones of all time. I loved Peanuts when I was little. And Linus was talking to Charlie Brown, and Charlie Brown said, you know, I just have this feel of impending doom. And Linus said, well, let's go through what your fears are. Is it a fear of this? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, fear of this, yeah. Fear of that, yeah. And he said at the end, he said, so and so, it's a fear of everything. And he goes, that's it. It's a fear of everything.
it
So
should be like
anyway.
omniphobia or something like that. I don't know what it would be called. But
Anyway, I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, this is all, I'm 100% in with all of this. The fear, I mean, same age, I wasn't in an event. I don't remember being in a storm or a tornado that sparked it, but terrified, just irrationally terrified of storms until probably into my early teen years. So yeah, I'm right there with y'all.
And James A. just developed a brand new fear that many of our meteorologists suffer. James A., what are you going to name this one?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about this a while, but the fear of opening your email inbox after a blown forecast. Not that
Mailboxophobia. Mailboxophobia. There you go.
Bustophobia. There you go. That'll probably be a good one. Vanessa, back to you. I'm sorry we went down this rabbit hole, but that was a good place to go for sure. Talk about moving from Miami to Joplin, Missouri, and experiencing all four seasons for the first time. And you left there right before the big tornado. Talk about that experience.
I still cannot explain it. I was raised Catholic. I believe I have guardian angels watching me. I have to say that was divine intervention for me, that experience with the Joplin tornado. When I graduated in 2008, obviously I had big dreams, thinking I am just gonna, back then, kiddos, we used DVDs to send out resumes. Back then it was DVDs for me. And I just remember tossing out all these DVDs every week at the post office, to wherever. I was willing to go wherever for that first TV job. Unfortunately, we all know what happened in the fall of 2008 when the economy crashed. Hiring freezes happened. Everyone was getting laid off. People were not hiring anywhere. TV stations were downsizing, and it was just a tough time to be a college graduate and not get that first job. So I was working in retail at the time. I was still trying to build my communication skills by working in retail, interacting with customers and, just trying to start building that thick skin of, hey, in TV, people are going to not be so nice to you sometimes. So might as well work in retail and start gaining that right now while you could. And then in June of 2009, Doug Hetty, the chief meteorologist at KOAM in Joplin, he called me and he said, we saw your resume, we saw your tape. I have never seen anyone have the drive and the passion you have. How would you like to come and be a weekend meteorologist here? And I was just like, Missouri, like, this is the Midwest. This is, for me, hurricane girl, like mecca of weather for the United States. All 4 seasons. I finally, can see snow all the time. I can see the changing leaves of the, the fall colors and, severe weather season. I never saw a tornado in my entire life up, that point. So I was excited. I do remember during that interview, Doug asked me this question. He's like, I know you're from Florida. I just want to know, have you ever driven in the snow before? And I was like, dude, I've lived in South Florida for 25 years. And I just remembered this huge pause. And he was like, uh-oh, this girl has no idea what she's about to get herself into. So I moved up to Joplin. Obviously, me coming from a big city, a very culturally diverse city like Miami, Florida, to go to middle of nowhere, Joplin, Missouri, obviously culture shock for this girl right here. Seeing the Central Plains for the first time and not seeing like any skyscrapers. You're 2.5 hours north from Kansas City. You're 3 hours up the road from St. Louis. You're an hour and a half. The closest big city is Tulsa. You're like an hour. Yes, James. I love Tulsa, by the way. And, Fort Smith, Arkansas. So I really didn't have any big exposures to big cities at this point. So I was like, okay, you know what? I am just going to put my time and energy into this job. This is my opportunity. Doug taught me everything that I needed to know about being a broadcast meteorologist. He's been like a big brother for me these last 15 years. He has been my mentor. I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for Doug. And not only did he taught me how to be a great forecaster, a great broadcast meteorologist, it was the first time I got exposed to the leadership opportunities the AMS offers, because at the time he was on the broadcast board. He was leaning to becoming chair of the AMS broadcast board. So he just exposed me to all these opportunities on and behind the camera. And, I owe my career to Doug Hetty. I really do. Obviously, I was very close to his son, Christian. You all know the story of what happened with his son. I cried the day his son passed away. It was very heartbreaking for me. His son was just born when I moved to Joplin, Missouri in 2009. So I spent the 2 years that I was in Joplin just absorbing everything I possibly could about broadcast meteorology inside and out. And then in March of 2011, my contract was almost up, and I got a call from KTVO in Kirksville, about 5 hours north of Joplin. And they were like, hey, we came across your resume. At the time, YouTube, you could start putting stuff up on YouTube and you could just send out a link and that was it. So no more DVDs for this girl after her first job search experience. And we were like, we saw you were bilingual. We have a huge Mexican population here in little small town Kirksville, Missouri. Would you be interested in coming here and doing Spanish weather for us? And, me being raised in a bilingual household in South Florida with a Cuban mom and American dad, I was like, oh my God, this is an opportunity for me to spread my wings and continue to build my job experience and my resume. So on April 15th, 2011, I moved out of my apartment on South 20th Street in Joplin. And I will tell you right now, I lived 2 blocks from Joplin High School. That's to show you where I could have been on May 22nd, 2011 at 5:40. So 5 weeks later, as we all know, I was working weekends at the time. And I remember just seeing that cell form and I was like, this is not good. And then I remember seeing Mike Bettis's first pictures from Joplin, and I immediately saw St. John's Hospital, and I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And mind you, I lived through Hurricane Andrew in 92. I immediately said to myself, this had to be an EF5, no question. This was this was Hurricane Andrew category 5 damage. I knew immediately this was an EF5. And I remember getting a call from my news director, and she's like, you need to get down there like right now. But we were still waiting for damage reports to come in. I was thinking about my safety. I wanted to make sure my friends at least were alive before I can even go down there. So we waited about 24 hours. I went ahead and I went down there. Once I knew everyone I knew was still alive, because after living in Joplin for so long, it became second home. I had friends who were like family for me. I mean, I wanted to make sure that at least everyone was still alive, and just getting there and just seeing the devastation. And for me, the PTSD I had from Andrew just came back to me. And to me, it really made me realize weather affects everybody, regardless of age, regardless of background. Weather affects everybody from all walks of life. And your job as a meteorologist is to make sure that you can try to save every single life. And I know up before Joplin, we just had the April 27th, 2011 outbreak, which, James, I think you did. That was the best. I don't know how you got through that day, James. So God bless you, James. I don't know how that. I've seen your work from that day, and I don't know how you did it. And I don't know how Doug and all the other Mets in Joplin were able to do it that day. Because for me, I remember telling my viewers in Kirksville when that tornado warning came in for Joplin, I remember my voice was crippling because I knew it just didn't look good. It just didn't look good. So I just can't imagine being a broadcast meteorologist and going on air and telling everyone this thing is big. Like that is one of my biggest fears of being a broadcast meteorologist. I hope and pray I never have to go on air and say a tornado emergency. I hope and pray I never have to say tornado emergency. But I know, me living in the Midwest, there's a chance that is going to probably happen in my career at some point. Knocking on wood, I've been very lucky the last 15 years. But I mean, I still have a lot of more years left in this business. So who knows? So after covering the aftermath of Joplin for about a year, that was my focus, my first year of focus at KTVO in Kirksville. I spent 6 years at KTVO in Kirksville. And then I got the call to be a meteorologist / storm chaser reporter at KSNT in Topeka. And for me, I was like, okay, I get a chance to actually not be in the studio anymore. I actually get to go out and be in the elements and see how storms form. As we all know, we all grew up, me personally, I saw Twister when I was 11 years old. I remember how cool I thought it was to be a storm chaser. And so it was like, I got another thing to cross off my bucket list, be an actual storm chaser and actually tell my chief, like, hey, I see a wall cloud. And I actually got to see a wall cloud when I was living in Topeka, near Manhattan, Kansas in May of 2017 during a severe weather event. And I remember in those storm spotter classes, they just tell you that rotation goes so slowly. You're so used to seeing the video of the rotating wall cloud, but I just remember just how slow it was. And I just was like, wow, this is it was one of the coolest things ever I got to see when I was storm chasing at KSNT in Topeka. And then in 2018, I got the opportunity to come to KQ2 News in St. Joe for my first stint to be a morning meteorologist. At this point, I was doing weekends and I was doing MMJ, one man woman reporting for 6-7 years at this point. And I'm like, I love reporting. I love getting out in the community, but I want to be doing this full time. I want to be an actual full-time broadcast meteorologist. So I got the opportunity to finally have a Monday through Friday position doing TV weather, and then also, you know, have some fun and do some fun little feature reporting. I mean, St. Joseph, Missouri is the home of the Kansas City Chiefs training camp. When Mahomes and the crew comes here, it's a big deal. So I got the chance to, you know, do some feature reporting for the Kansas City Chiefs during the time they were here for training camp. I got to do fun stories with the community. I loved it. But by 2019, you know, I was already a decade into this field, and I was like, I started feeling a little homesick. I was like, I want to go back to Florida, and I want to get back to hurricanes. Because at this point, you know, I got enough experience being in the Midwest that I was like, I want to go back to my first passion, hurricanes. So I got the call from WCBI in Columbus, Mississippi, right down the road from you, James. I had the opportunity to go and do TV weather in Columbus, Mississippi, and also get the opportunity to give back to the future of broadcast meteorologists by helping out, maybe teaching some broadcast meteorology to students at Mississippi State University. And at this point, I'm like, oh my goodness, like I want to teach. I want to start, you know, paying it forward, because I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have people who took me under their wing. I want to take students under my wing and teach them the business. So the plan was for me to go to WCBI, do morning weather, and then help out at Mississippi State. Mind you, this was December 2019. Fast forward 3 months later, we all know what happened. 3 months later, in March of 2020, COVID hit. Obviously, the world shut down. That was the first time in my career I felt so alone, so isolated. You know, after leaving an area I knew so well for 10 years and having family and friends that I knew for 10 years, you know, back up north, and then having my family back in Florida, I was literally by myself in a new area, a new market, and then having to deal with severe weather during a pandemic. That was challenging. I remember vividly the Easter Sunday severe weather event in 2020, and just like, wow. I thought covering severe weather in the Midwest was challenging. For me, the Deep South was a completely different, you know, jungle for me when it came to covering severe weather. I think I'm still recovering from the bags under my eyes from all the severe weather events I had to cover overnight during my time at WCBI. And then, you know, after the crazy severe weather season with the pandemic, we of course had the crazy hurricane season of 2020. And I was just like, Delta, and it was just one storm after another. Sally, Laura, it was like boom, 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 boom. And I was like, geez, 2020, what are you doing to me? Seriously, what are you doing to me? So it was just, 2020 was hard for me on so many levels, not just with the pandemic, but just with all the extreme weather events we had in the Deep South, from severe weather to hurricanes. And then in 2021, we had the ice storm, which, you know, Troy knows how hard he went through in Texas during that time. And then, you know, that storm went through, you know, Alabama, Mississippi, and brought ice and snow. I was used to dealing with winter weather. But then I had to come to learn, when you tell viewers an inch of snow is falling in Columbus, Mississippi, people literally run to the supermarket and act like it's the apocalypse. And I'm just like, wow, wow.
And buy milk and bread, right, Vanessa? That's James Spann's fault. He has stock in all the grocery stores. That's why that happens. But Jen, I know you've got a question, and I want to make sure we don't leave it out. So is this a good place for you to jump in?
Sure. No, I was just, Vanessa, I was listening to you and then reading your bio, and I do radio weather. And I was just remarking how many cities we have in common, because I've been on in Kirksville. I'm currently on in St. Joe. I'm on the Eagle Station. I'm on in Topeka. I am on in Joplin right now, and then we both worked at the Weather Channel briefly. You can talk about that in just a minute. I worked there for 15 years, though, but way back in the Stone Age when they, late 90s is when I started, and was just seeing how much we had in common. And I was just thinking about, forecasting in the plains, and it's such a great experience for you, to be able to move out of Florida and to go experience that and what have you. But I find, as I'm walking around all these different cities, each one of these cities have such a unique and some challenges in terms of the forecast, but it is a pain in the butt forecasting for the plains, I think. And I don't know what it is about I-70, but it's a pain in my butt. They're forecasting.
The magic line.
That's
the
that magic line.
line.
Yeah, like forecasting. I've been on in Kansas City on KMBZ there since the late 90s. And I don't know what it is, but it's, it's like the magic line, north of I-70, it'll be ice, and south of I-70, it'll be rain and all that. So talk about some of the challenges in the different, markets that you've been in. But especially for the plains, just some of the challenges in forecasting and how you kind of got around that and what you've learned with that.
So obviously, me being a Miami, Florida girl, my first winter in the plains, oh my God, covering winter weather, that was my biggest challenge because I had to fight. It was one thing my professors talked about, that magic 32-degree line. Oh, did those QTs from college came back and haunted me. I knew they were gonna come and get me at some point. And man, did they did during my first year in Joplin. And just looking at that magic 32-degree line and being like, okay, is this gonna be an all snow event? Oh no, wait. Are we gonna no, ice? No. I've come to learn when it comes to snow, people can handle the snow. Ice, people run. That the ice is what people is, in my opinion, scares me. I hate saying freezing rain. Every time I have to say freezing rain, it's like putting nails on a chalkboard and just hearing. It's for me pure torture telling people ice, because ice will just stall and stop people. And I have driven on ice-covered roads. It is not fun. And I have a 20-year-old Accord. That Accord has been through me throughout my entire career since I was 19. I don't know how that Accord has survived all the markets and all the cities and all the weather it's been through. And it's still holding on strong at 245,000 miles right now. So
you're giving Span's Forerunner a run for its money there, Vanessa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm getting a Forerunner tomorrow, James. I'm excited.
A new one? Goodness,
well,
those things
no,
cost like
actually
$80,000.
Slightly used one.
Yeah, there you go.
But I need. Well, eldest didn't want our youngest child to have our oldest car, so we're gonna have to upgrade. But I wanted something I can storm chase in. So anyway, I'm going Forerunner, Span. You think that'll work?
Yeah. I got three. Again, as of this afternoon, it was 387,000 miles.
Awesome. Well, I'll get another 310 out of this one. That'll be perfect. I'm gonna get a couple of light bars and some searchlights and weather station to put on the back. It'll be perfect. What do you think?
There you go. I like it.
I tell you what, we've got to charge for our chat. And I'm sorry, Vanessa, I didn't want you to think I was laughing at you. Somebody dropped a poop emoji. Somebody dropped a poop emoji on James.
That was me. I'll admit it.
Which is what he wanted, but it didn't occur to me until I saw it that's what he meant when he said, I'll leave it to your imagination. So I'm a little slow, but I didn't want you to think I was laughing at you, because when I saw that, I just about lost it. And I almost was like, we're going to have to put instead of a sneeze, a sneeze button on this thing, we're going to have to put a crack up button. I want to play lightning round with you for a minute, Vanessa, because you're involved in so many things. I want to talk to you. I'm going to say things and you tell us what that means to you and why it's important, and, if people could get involved, what they should do. And I know we got to go pretty fast because we don't have a lot of time left, but you're one of the new AMS digital meteorologists, and you're the board of digital meteorologists chair. Talk about that real quick.
Yes. So because of how much I love the AMS, I first got involved, not only with my student opportunities, but then when I became an adult, I learned about the broadcast board, the station scientist committee, the AMS CBM CDM exam review that Troy has been my leader
Right.
and has guided me in my terms. I just started getting involved with the AMS because I want to leave my impact and help out this organization with the thousands of meteorologists that are on here. And when I got my CBM in 2019, it was at that point my biggest career accomplishment. I became for a lot of people who know me through the AMS, I'm like the quote unquote poster child for the CBM because I had the drive and passion to become a CBM. And for so many people, it's like, okay, I got my CBM, yay, okay, we move on. But for me, I made it a big deal when I became CBM number 815 in February of 2019. And from that point on, now that I had my CBM, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get on the broadcast board. Finally got on the broadcast board in 2020. I began my term in 2021. And it was around that time where there were a lot of broadcasters that went into the digital field, but their digital work was not, I wouldn't say good enough. It wasn't qualified enough to get the CBM. And that's when the discussion started of like, okay, digital is becoming the future. Shouldn't we start researching and maybe look into like a certified digital meteorologist seal? Erica Grossi, who is the commissioner of professional affairs at AMS, God bless her. She came up with a proposal. She presented it to the AMS broadcast board in the fall of 2021. And she recruited a few of us to start doing research on this new quote unquote CDM. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize then how big digital was becoming. When I first became a broadcast meteorologist, your only job was to go on TV, do the 5, 6, and 10, call it a night. But as my career went forward, it was becoming, okay, do a web story. Oh yeah, let's add a couple of social media posts. Oh yeah, maybe add an Instagram reel or a TikTok. The digital work just kept on building. But then I was exposed to like all these newspaper meteorologists. They were starting to do digital weather, weather producers who build graphics and post it onto social media. Like they couldn't qualify for the CBM because they were not on air. And then it was like, wow, there are good qualified meteorologists out there who deserve to be certified. And so myself and the ad hoc committee, we came up with the requirements and the work samples and the evaluations for the certified digital meteorologist seal. And then last summer, right before we were going to launch in October, Erica Grossi and Kelly Savoy from the AMS, they approached me because at the time I was going to become the chair-elect to lead the broadcast board this year in 2024. And they approached me and they were like, look, if you think this is going to be too much work, you can tell us, no, and, we won't take it personal. We think you would do a great job with your experience on the broadcast board, doing the Phoenix 50th broadcast conference, your involvement with the station scientists committee, just your passion and your drive. We think you are the right person to be the inaugural chair for the new board of digital meteorologists. And at that point, I said to myself, I already knew that the requirements and the work samples were going to be very similar to the CBM. So I had to put my mindset of like, okay, I cannot look at this as like two different boards, two different seals. I'm going to look at this as one big teamwork effort, and I'm going to be leading people to get either the digital or the broadcast seal. And I will tell you, this past year has been one of the craziest years of my life. It's not easy leading one board. So you can imagine what it's like leading two boards, especially a new board that just launched a new seal, and we're trying to spread the word and build the CDM seal to have people know, like, hey, this digital seal now exists. You can apply for it. But it's also been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. And I'm just, it makes me feel good knowing that I'm making a difference and I'm helping the future of this organization through getting new CDMs, getting new CBMs. I love making those phone calls once I sign off on the paperwork to let these candidates know, from my experience, I know what it was like, the blood, sweat, and tears you put in to study the exam, submit your work samples, and to call these individuals and to tell them, hey, your CDM number so-and-so, your CBM number so-and-so, and just hearing all their reactions. I've had people cry, I've had people scream, I've had people who are like in this shock, and it makes me feel good knowing that I'm making that difference. And again, it's
a
a
big
lot of
deal.
work.
It's a big deal. James, what number are you? Your CBM.
33.
Wow. How about you, Troy?
25, I think.
We are
We're old.
Yeah, watch.
We're some
old.
high cotton here. James A., are you a CBM?
Older than James.
Yeah,
By the way, I
what's
want
your
to mention too that Vanessa, even though I don't know why Vanessa almost screwed this up, but she is beginning in January at AMS 105th meeting in New Orleans. She'll begin her second 3-year term on the CBM CDM exam review committee. Unfortunately, Vanessa can't talk about anything that we do. They have to kill us. But bottom line is, I thank you for your service and what you do. She is very, very hardworking.
So James A., what's your CBM number?
I had to look it up. I'm 656.
Wow, that's just incredible.
He's a kid. He's a kid.
That's awesome, you guys. Talk about your efforts to recruit Spanish-speaking meteorologists, Vanessa, to get their CBM or CDM.
So that was one of the biggest things that we knew that we had to make possible. I wanted to make sure that as the inaugural chair, we build this new board with both English and Spanish speaking members. We've been very lucky right now. We have the CBM, CDM Spanish Standing Committee, which I'm a part of. So I evaluate Spanish speakers. And, I let them know now that I'm the chair of these two boards, when I get a Spanish broadcaster and I'm congratulating them on the CBM, I let them know, like, hey, if you're doing some digital work, spread it. You should apply for this CDM seal. I mean, you don't have to take the exam again. That's the great thing. Once you get either the CBM or the CDM, you don't have to take that dreaded 100-question test again.
Yeah, Troy's version of HE double toothpicks, right?
And Vanessa's too. Whoop. And the one thing that we had to do at our committee, and you have to, Vanessa, give Kelly so much praise, the people up on Beacon Street in Boston. But I can remember the day that we originally talked a few years back, Vanessa, and talked about a Spanish language exam. And what's so interesting is the Spanish translation of meteorological terms was it got where it was, I'm sitting here I was shaking my head. I wonder if we could ever get it done, because there were certain dialects within Spanish language where it didn't mean the same thing. And so we went through a process of which Vanessa was so important and so many volunteers in the AMS. But that is done now. You can request the Spanish language exam.
That is so exciting, Troy.
Yeah, it is.
You have one thing on your resume that I'm really interested in, Vanessa, and that's your AMS community champion. Talk about that role, what that means and what you do, and what that's all about.
So you are basically the whoop whoop of the AMS. That's how I look at it as.
Not like Spam's whoop whoop. That's his that's when we get in trouble.
Yeah.
AMS. I mean, as I told you guys, I think I can write a novel about my life and my career and where the last 39 years have taken me, where the last 32 years have taken me, the last 15 years have taken me. It's been hard. I mean, I have unfortunately dealt with not so nice people in this business. Unfortunately, some of them have been bosses and coworkers that I had to work closely with and trust. But at the same time, I've been very blessed to meet amazing people, whether it's through my job, AMS, amazing people who just want to support me and just see this bright light that I have. Everyone says I'm just this ray of sunshine. And, you know, I just want to do the best I can. I always tell myself every day when I get up, if you can learn something new today, do it. And if you can go to bed every night being grateful, even though if you had a bad day, if you had a lesson that you could learn from that bad day, how is it going to make you a better person tomorrow? And I always like to be, getting up at 2 a.m. is not easy, to be that ray of sunshine for people at 5 o'clock in the morning when they're getting up and starting their day. I just tell myself, if I can give my viewers the main weather message of the day, I did my job. And I did it with grace.
Well, I know that is absolutely true. I think all of our panelists have checked in that they don't have anything else. So, Dr. Span, I'll pass it over to you for the hard questions.
Well, and we got to take a break here, but I'm excited about the digital certification process because it's gotten rough out there. We've had a post. Well, what happened? Some guy pulled a post from 2 years ago from WSFA, Channel 12 in Montgomery, Josh Johnson's group, showing 4 years ago 2 hurricane tracks in the Gulf of Mexico. So some knucklehead posted it as if it's current. And one guy on his account has been shared 14,000 times. I've been dealing with it for the last 2 weeks. People have canceled vacations because of this. And these jabronis are rolling in the creator content funds, rolling in dough from putting out false information. So hopefully, Vanessa, don't you think this will help at some point once we kind of get more with that and we publicize it a little more, having a seal up on the on your social media channels? Don't you think that'll help?
That was a big reason why I wanted to get this seal out there, because I can't tell you how many times in my career I see someone on Weather Twitter post that wonderful 14-day GFS, and I'm like, no, they just want to do it just for the likes and for the followers. And I'm like, no, this is not a trusted source. Your local meteorologists are your source. And, if we can put that seal out there, and anyone who goes on Twitter or goes on a website and reads a blog, if they see that CDM, they know that that person who has the CDM has a degree in meteorology, took a thorough exam in their knowledge of meteorology, then submitted work samples to prove that the work that they produced was their own work and their own forecast. Like, that is a trusted source you can follow, and not just JoJo, who posted that wonderful 14-day GFS model of a Category 5 hurricane hitting Florida. Just so that
or your local TikTok dancer. Not that there's anything wrong with being a TikTok dancer, but when you tell people a Category 5 hurricane is coming up Mobile Bay on June 23rd, and you post that on May 31st, and people share it, and you have 1 million views of your dancing, half-naked TikTok video forecasting a Category 5 hurricane, that's not a credible source. So, again, I think that CDM will really help once we teach people this is what it looks like, this is what it means, and hopefully that will call. And look, that horse is out of the barn. We're always going to have this problem. This is nothing new, but I think this will help people in finding a credible source on that side. But having said that, we got to stop for a quick moment, and we're going to go to Tony Rice and get his astronomy report. We've got Jen in This Week in Tornado History. I'm so excited about the email working again, Bill. This is an exciting day. All of us were
And
getting
it was
the
fairly
emails
painless too. I thought it was going to be horrible, and it was fairly painless.
Well, I'm pumped. So we'll
We
do
just
a quick
if
email
we can
segment.
just get a confirmation from Dr. Jacobs that it's working for him. So,
Well, he's out surfing or fishing. We know that. We know he's not TikTok dancing. Dr. Jacobs is not a TikTok dancer.
Could be.
But let's get Tony's report. We'll get Jen's This Week in Tornado History. Hey, we got picks of the week. Much more coming up as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
You may have seen Starlink satellites passing over your home in the past. They're most visible in the day or two after launch when they're still clustered together and look like a string of pearls moving through the night sky. Recent versions of these desk-sized satellites have been less visible, though, and this is at the request of professional astronomers, who complained that the satellite streaking through their images was impacting their research. But recent data from the International Astronomical Union's Center for Protection of Dark and Quiet Skies indicates that the latest iteration of satellites is about 5 times brighter, some even more. But most interestingly, the satellites are blue. These are DTC, or direct-to-cell satellites, part of SpaceX's attempt to create a giant cell tower in space. The first batch was launched back in January, and there's currently 129 of these in orbit, with many, many, many more to come. The FCC has authorized up to 7,500. The idea behind it is to provide voice, text, and data services to the same LTE phone that you probably have in your pocket right now. Initial service is being rolled out to T-Mobile customers in the United States and Rogers in Canada, with other partnerships being set up with wireless companies in Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, as well as some in South America. Now, that change in brightness, it's probably a result of the lower altitude and larger antennas that are required. There's a number of free iPhone and Android apps that can help you spot when Starlink and other satellites pass over. I also like heavens-above.com. Update your location in the upper right-hand corner, and it can tell you when dozens of different satellites, including Starlink, will be visible from your location. Elsewhere in the sky, look for the Moon, Jupiter, and Mars to form a triangle early this week, rising about midnight and remaining high in the pre-dawn sky. That's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokey for more spacey stuff like this.
This week in tornado history, August 27th, 1964. The first tornado on record in Arizona to cause fatalities occurred. It was a quick-hitting twister, later rated F2. This tornado hit a Native American settlement near the San Xavier Mission, about 4 miles from Tucson. The storm data entry had no path length or width listed. Thomas Grzoulis in Significant Tornado states the tornado, quote, moved erratically north, then west, and then north again. An article in the Arizona Daily Star mentioned a 3.25-mile path. Mrs. Lucy Norris and her 9-month-old son were killed. They were crushed with other family members by a pile of adobe bricks at their home. A total of 4 dwellings were demolished, and there was damage to the convent of the nuns of St. Francis. Sisters Martha and Juanita were in the building and took refuge in the cellar. Sister Martha described the tornado as, quote, very black from top down. At least 9 injuries occurred along the path. Read more about this event and hundreds more at tornadotalk.com.
Just maybe, we have a little email we want to pass along this week.
We not only have email, but we actually have email, and I know who it came from. So that is amazing.
Yes,
So,
victory.
awesome. This is great.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. We are back up and running. So I'll do a couple of email right now. First of all, we have a question that came in from Dale. My wife and I moved to Hoover 3 years ago and would like to learn more about Alabama weather. I lived in Pennsylvania, North Georgia, and Florida. I lived in all those places. I think I might know Dale. I managed to get a good understanding of the
so
weather.
much in common with so many people, Jen.
I've been everywhere. Managed to get a good understanding of the weather and climate there, but Alabama has generally mystified me so far. I have 2 questions. Are droughts pretty much an annual thing here? And if so, is that a relatively new development in response to climate change or not? And then where do you recommend I look for ongoing questions about weather in the region? I don't use Twitter. I will study to gain understanding, not just looking for superficial information. So I thought maybe somebody here from Alabama might have some.
Watch James Fan's video twice a day. That's the best place in the world to learn
That's
about
right.
Alabama.
Yes. No, droughts are nothing new. We've had droughts here for a long time. I see no evidence that they're increasing in frequency or intensity, but we've had droughts for a long time. I remember as a child, I forget what year. This is back in the
53, that big
1960s.
huge one. There was one.
Yeah,
that
and the
was
ones back in the
terrible.
30s were just unbelievable. But we had one in the 50s and we had one in the 60s. But no, they're nothing new. And again, that's just to be expected here. But in terms of learning weather, Bill, this is a good chance to plug our blog, right? Plug
Yes,
away.
AlabamaWX.com. And Jen
Yeah.
is helping on there now. And we try to really do a lot of deep explainers. And so all of us, Ryan Stennett is who introduced us to you, Vanessa. Scott Martin, of course, is a big part of it. And of course, the GOAT himself, is on there twice a day. And, but that video James does will teach you more. And of course, we try to back it up with our text information. So please do come over to AlabamaWX.com, and there you'll find James's videos twice a day and ours once a day on weekends.
And I'll say this, and I could talk about this. Obviously, this is part of my soul here, but we have some of the most diverse weather on the planet here. We have ice storms, we have hurricanes and tropical storms, we have violent tornadoes. In much of the United States, they don't think tornadoes happen here because our tornadoes are not sexy. You can't see them. But we have floods, we have heat waves, we have droughts. You name it, we've got it here. It's a fascinating weather market. But yeah, just
don't have
follow along
cold
in the
waves
blog.
anymore, James. We need cold waves again.
Yeah, cold waves. It's
now
been as
you've
cold as
ex-
10 below zero here.
Well, that's true. Troy
I
had a cold wave. He didn't do
Thank
too
you.
well.
I love that term, cold wave. That should be travelers advisories and cold wave. We should bring them back.
That's right.
But anyway,
I agree 100%. But we have Alabama Power to keep our power on, so we're not going to lose power.
Yes.
When
So
when
AlabamaWX.com, Jen. That's our recommendation.
That's right. That's awesome. I've enjoyed my time with it so far. We've got more to do, right, Bill? We're going to be covering all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we have to swap email providers. We have a loyal following who've gotten an email for many years, and somehow GoDaddy bought our wonderful Mad Mimi program that John Olshe introduced us to several years ago, and we got evacuated on Friday because they deprecated that wonderful system, and their replacement is not nearly as good. So Jen has got us on a super program, and we'll have it up and running, and JP will be helping to get those out. We'll get him a kind of a primer on the new system here shortly, and we'll test it out over the weekend.
You got it. I'm going to do a bonus email since we can. And no, I actually had two people ask this question about the two H's. I'm going to read the one from Rick Halterman. Looking at the National Hurricane Center site today, I see there are two H-named storms. Could this be because of contrails? Maybe social media hype? Turning naming over to AI? Spaghetti plots run wild? Or maybe basin naming conventions? Inquiring minds want to know. So we have, and I think it's Hona is how you say it, from Central Pacific list.
Yeah, right.
And then Hector, which is the Eastern Pacific list. So it is a little weird to look out there and all of a sudden you've got two H's and the name storm. So thank you, Rick, for asking that question.
And next up in the Atlantic is Francine, which was like a doll my sister had. It was like Barbie's sidekick or something back when we were kids.
Well, now we've got a new interest in the Atlantic. I saw there was a 7-day small chance for development, but we're not
the Hurricane Center was just dying to get that out there.
Yeah, at the 8 o'clock advisory. But we're back with email. So please send us your email at weatherbrains.com, and we will try to get to you either through email or on the show. And we appreciate all of your show suggestions and your questions. It's just awesome. We appreciate it.
We're gonna need show suggestions quickly because Vanessa, I told you I was the last guest, so I got to get to work this week.
So I've never heard as many people excited about email as anybody else in my life here is this group.
Kidding.
But I will say it is refreshing to be able to see it again. It's like I feel connected with you people. All right, let's do picks of the week. This is where we're going to go around the horn. Everybody's going to share something very cool that is weather related. This can be a data source, website, book, hardware, software. You name it, something remotely related to weather. So let's go out to the National Weather Service in Norman. WCM Rick Smith, Hollywood. Rick, give us a good pick.
My pick of the week combines two of my favorite things in the world: thunderstorms and Chick-fil-A. So it's also the shortest pick of the week I've ever provided, but 30 seconds, you'll enjoy it.
Well, okay. Outstanding. Wow. Excellent.
Ooh,
All right.
Troy's
James Adelot.
sporting a little Chick-fil-A there.
But
Yeah.
not on
All right,
Sunday.
James A, go.
Mine is the video from the wet microburst at McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita. They were trying to start the second day of their big air show. And if you know how expensive aviation things are, to see all of that stuff blowing around, airplanes, because they don't have tie downs on a flight line for small planes at an air show. So planes were just bouncing into each other. It was just a bad, bad scene.
And again, all these links and pics will be up on weatherbrains.com. Let's go to the commissioner. The commissioner, Kim, what you got for us this week?
Well, with that, I will pick The Fifth Risk, the book that I mentioned earlier by Michael Lewis. And if you haven't read it, it's kind of interesting. It gives you a lot of behind the scenes with a bunch of names that'll probably be familiar. And yes, indeed, a little bit of my take on our field and its origins in trauma.
Outstanding. Yeah, I think the show title is Field of Walking Trauma Cases here for the show tonight.
No question.
I've also got I-70 is a pain in my butt. I don't know.
That's not bad.
I like that. Yeah.
That's another possibility here. All right, let's go to Troy Kimmel for a pick. Troy, go.
I want to give I'm going to give a shout out to Rick and his colleagues in a second, but we all start. I was reaching over here to grab the sheet that I use when I start a forecast, basically just to scratch and so forth. And if you have not seen the National Weather Service prototype IDSS forecast points, folks, that's my pick of the week. National Weather Service is still prototype at this point, but you can go to any point and see so much information based on the gridded data and so forth the Weather Service works on. And that is my pick of the week. It's a lot of fun. I think Jen been kind of fooling around with it in the last little bit. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you go over there and use it.
Excellent. Again, these will be up on weatherbrains.com. Mine, it's European model output is you want to look at tropical low positions. Weathernerds.org. They've got some pretty good graphics involving global models that are very helpful when it comes to kind of long-range position of tropical lows. So that'll be my pick of the week, and the link will be up on the website. Vanessa, we have stalled long enough. We know you've got something good for us. Go.
All right. So this actually was a kicker on my morning show last week, and I said, oh my God, this is going to be such a cool story. It was from FFA in Dallas. They covered a chocolate, like a chocolatier, of how they managed to keep chocolate cool in the Texas heat.
Wow. Yeah.
Like
M&Ms.
shipping the chocolate. Like they'll wrap the chocolate up in like this and then put it like in an ice pack. They'll take the ice pack outside into like a little like a shipping container and see if the ice pack will handle the summer heat before they ship out the chocolate. Yep. I was like, wow.
Need to go try it in Austin.
Now I know the lengths people will go to just to save the chocolate.
Yeah, that's something that here in Texas, I mean, not that I've ordered. Yeah, I have. But bottom line, you order it in middle of summer and they'll tell you, okay, this is the shipping charge because we have to special, and they put that stuff on dry ice, basically, in some cases.
Yeah, a couple of wineries won't ship to Oklahoma in the summer.
Yep.
So I hear.
Word has it.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So a friend of a friend told me that. I tried to drive 4 hours back today from the beach, and I had a little thing of chocolate covered pretzels in my vehicle, that famous Forerunner from yesterday. and I stuck my hand in there, and it was all goo. I mean,
Yeah.
it just wasn't working. So
Be looking like
summer
James
heat down here
A's pun emoji.
in chocolate is not a good situation
No.
here. All right, Bill Murray, go.
Yeah, I'm gonna take James Lewis's advice, and I've always been fascinated by our mythical hurricanes from the '60s, Hurricane Carla, Hurricane Betsy that Vanessa mentioned earlier. You know, you used to get these incredible at the library. They would have these, post disaster reports that would be all the advisories, which were just spectacular. And he suggested that some old British newsreel footage of Hurricane Carla be a pick tonight. So I'm going to grab that and run with it. Since I'd always have been fascinated by Hurricane Carla, and so that's my pick of the week. And the tip of the hat to James Lewis for that excellent recommendation. And I got to get to work tomorrow, starting on new guests. So please send those suggestions because I can't tell you who's going to be even on next week, James Spann.
I have a question.
We're going to try it.
I have a quick question.
Go.
I wanted to know if I could do my pick of the week.
Oh,
If that would be all right.
Jen, how did you not get on my list here? I normally have
don't
this
know.
fancy little list of all the participants.
I know
You
you
usually
guys-
leave
not
me
on my
out,
little list
Jen.
here.
How did you?
Jen,
do
send
it?
us an.
know.
Jen,
Yeah,
just-
normally it's
Yeah.
Bill.
Yeah.
I leave somebody out every week. So
WeatherBrains is the
Consider
weekly
yourself-
netcast. It's all. Oh, wait a minute,
I-
Bill.
Jen, just
consider
send us an
yourself
email. okay?
flattered.
Jen,
Okay.
send us an
Flattered,
email.
yes.
Okay.
I'll just send you an email. No, because I need help on this because Tornado Talk is now on Spotify and we have 23 listeners and I need more. So please listen to us. I wanted to find a new way to tell our stories in all seriousness because we have such amazing stories and I know not everybody wants to read a blog and go through everything. So I did decide to put something out there and just do these short little readings of our stories. So the first one is from the Thurman, Colorado tornado from 1924. So you get to hear the dulcet tones of me. So if we could get a few listeners, that would be awesome. And so if you're on Spotify, check us out.
Spotify.
Your
Jen,
newsletter. Now everybody gets that newsletter, or just your Patreon supporters, Jen? The one like I got this morning.
Anybody can sign up for the newsletter. All Patreon supporters get it, but you can sign up through our website as well. And then that gives you updates on what we're doing.
Well, I'm always fascinated because you go through this week in tornado history, and you mentioned that the only F5 to occur in August occurred this week.
The
And
Plainfield. Yeah.
And Kim mentioned it earlier, the Plainfield tornado.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's worth the price of admission right there, just to read Kim's. Jen's tornado history every week. I look forward to that newsletter every week.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Thank you, Hollywood, for following me. I'm honored.
Hollywood. Hollywood
Is a
is
well-deserved
following you.
nickname, Rick Smith.
Rick is going to be
yeah.
gone like for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
hope
yeah.
not.
He's
I hope
done with
not.
this.
He looked awesome in the movie for sure.
Never.
I was so disappointed, but we saw it in the theater and I just missed it. And I got to see it at home. And I know this man. I know him.
I know.
Everybody in the house watching. I said, "Stop it right there! I know this man."
I know. They nearly threw
him.
me out of the theater because I did the same thing, James. But I was at the movie.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
outstanding.
it's
All right,
easy to miss.
but Vanessa, if people want to follow you on social media, what you got? Plug away. This is your chance to plug anything you want to plug.
So I have a Facebook page, meteorologist Vanessa Alonso, KQ2. They can follow me on Twitter at the Alonso Weather, and then at Vanessa Alonso Weather on both Instagram and TikTok.
It's outstanding. I wish I had a TV station as cool as KQ2.
Oh yeah,
KQ,
exactly.
KQ2.
Yours isn't bad. ABC 3340.
No, mine's horrible. No, KQ2. That's the one you want to work for right there. That's outstanding. All right, so we must take a little break here for a week. If you're new to this, we're typically on the air Monday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, and you can watch this live on YouTube. WeatherBrains on YouTube channel, youtube.com/WeatherBrains. But we know that most of you listen to the audio version. Whatever, we're glad you're here, and we're so excited. Our email is working again. So if you send us an email, we all get to see it. The address is email@weatherbrains.com. On behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week and God bless.
Bye.
I didn't know there was this much excitement about the email. I'd have gotten to work harder on it earlier.
Bye, Vanessa.
Hey,
Nice
Vanessa,
to meet
thanks.
you.
This was a great
Vanessa,
show.
take care.
Great show.
Thank you,
Good to
Vanessa.
see
Great
you.
job.
Hey, Vanessa.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.
We'll be
Thanks, everyone.
following you.